All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going to tackle a word that is, well, everywhere. Aesthetic. You hear it all the time, right? For a certain look, a perfect sunset, a whole vibe. But what are we really saying when we use it? It turns out that simple question has a history that is way deeper and more fascinating than you'd think. So, let's get into it.
I mean, on the surface, it feels pretty simple, doesn't it? We know an aesthetic when we see one. It's that vibe, that look, that feeling. And in our super visual world today, the word has kind of become this catch-all for any style that feels deliberate, Everything from cottagecore to dark academia. But is that really all it is?
Because that's the thing, isn't it? The second you try to pin it down, the definition gets slippery. Is it just about what looks good to you, personally? Is it just another trend that's going to fade away? Or is there something much, much deeper going on here? That right there, that is the big question we're going to unpack today.
To get our answer, we have to jump in a time machine. And I mean way, way back. The journey to understanding the aesthetic doesn't start with Instagram or TikTok. It actually starts in the 18th century. And it begins with a completely different word, taste.
So, picture this. It's the 18th century, and there's this huge intellectual showdown happening. In one corner, you've got the rationalists. For them, beauty was like a math problem. They believed you could use pure logic and a set of rules to prove that something was beautiful. But a totally new, much more intuitive idea was bubbling up, the theory of taste. And it said, nope, beauty isn't a conclusion you reach with your brain, it's a feeling, it's a gut reaction. And this led to the first really big idea, the immediacy thesis. It basically just says that when you see something beautiful, you just get it. Instantly, it hits you right away, kind of like tasting sugar or smelling smoke. You don't have to pull out a checklist and reason your way to it.
Oh, I love this example. It makes the whole thing so clear. A philosopher, Jean-Baptiste Dubos, came up with this brilliant comparison way back in 1719. He basically said, look, do you need to know the chef's recipe to know if a stew or ragu is delicious? No, of course not. You just taste it. And he argued that art and beauty work the exact same way. You just sense whether it's good or not.
Okay, so this brings us to the second big idea, and you gotta stick with me on this one because the wording is a little tricky. The disinterest thesis. Now, disinterested here does not mean bored or that you don't care. It's a technical term. It means you appreciate something for exactly what it is, totally separate from what it can do for you. Like, you can think a race car is beautiful without having any desire to own it. Or you can find a piece of protest music powerful and beautiful, even if you don't agree with the politics. It's all about separating that aesthetic feeling from any kind of personal agenda. Now, you'd think these ideas, a gut feeling and a selfless appreciation, would be pretty straightforward. But of course they weren't. They ended up kicking off centuries of really intense debates about what art even is and why it's valuable at all. So one major theory that popped up was something called formalism. And the formalists, well, they took that idea of disinterest and they just ran with it to the absolute extreme. They argued that the only thing that gives a piece of art value is its form. The lines, the colors, the composition. The story behind it, the artist's life, the historical context, all totally irrelevant.
But this is where formalism slams into a huge problem. A really fascinating one, actually. What happens when you've got two things that are visually identical? I mean, you can't tell them apart just by looking, but we treat one as a priceless masterpiece and the other as, well, just a piece of cardboard.
And here it is, the perfect example. On the left, Andy Warhol's Brillo box sculpture. You'd see it in a museum. On the right, a regular old Brillo box from the supermarket. To your eyes, they are exactly the same. So if you're a strict formalist, you'd have to say they have the same aesthetic value. But come on, we all know that's not right. This amazing puzzle showed that something beyond what we can see, the context, the idea, the art world itself, is what turns one box into art and leaves the other as just a box. So this blows the whole thing wide open. If it's not just about what something looks like, then we're back to the biggest question of all. Where does aesthetic value actually come from? Why do we even care about beauty in the first place?
The most common answer, the one a lot of us would probably give, is something called aesthetic hedonism. And it's a pretty simple idea. We value beautiful things because experiencing them feels good. It gives us pleasure. Simple enough, right? Well, not so fast. Just think about it for a second. Is Picasso's masterpiece Guernica, which shows the absolute horror of war, pleasurable? What about a really disturbing movie or a book that just completely breaks your heart? We call these things great works of art all the time, but the feeling they give us isn't exactly pleasure.
And this throws us right into a classic chicken and egg problem.
Is a great painting valuable because we happen to enjoy looking at it? Or do we enjoy looking at it because it already has some kind of built-in aesthetic value? This is the core dilemma. And honestly, philosophers are still fighting about it. So after this whirlwind tour through 300 years of philosophy, why should any of this matter to us, as we're just scrolling through our feeds? Well, it turns out this entire conversation is secretly wired into the very way we talk about the world. So let's just recap this wild journey. It all kicked off with the simple idea of taste, a gut feeling that pushed back against rigid rules. That one idea spiraled into these huge debates about what art even is, forcing people to deal with things like Warhol's Brillo box. And that, in turn, makes us ask the biggest question. Why do we value beauty at all? Is it just for pleasure, or is it something more? So you see, the aesthetic isn't really a definition. It's the name we give to this deep, ongoing conversation that's been happening for centuries. And that brings us right back to where we started. The next time you see an amazing sunset, or you love the aesthetic of a movie, or you're even just thinking about your own style, try to remember this history. You're not just saying you like something. You're actually stepping into this massive, incredible human conversation about what it means to see, to feel, and to find value in the world. So the real question isn't just about what the word means. The real question is, what conversation are you joining?